Disclaimer. All views expressed on What Makes Us Fire are solely those of the person or persons giving them. What Makes Us Fire does not represent or claim to represent any particular city or fire department, and therefore make the claim that all views and standpoints are affiliated with What Makes Us Fire and with What Makes Us Fire only. Any mention of certain fire departments or cities within the interviews are solely for informational and opinion-based dialogue. In short, if you have a problem with what's published, just say something about it and don't be a Richard. How's it going, What Makes Us Fire family? This is Josh, your host, the What Makes Us Fire podcast. Thank you for joining us on the episode today. Today, we have Officer Krispy from TikTok. Yes, I know I get a lot of my guests from TikTok, but like I said before, we find a lot of amazing people that are putting out good vibes and good feelings out into the world. On this episode, you guys are going to have to give me a little bit of slack. I had a lot of internet difficulties as we went through the interview process, but we made it work. We go through a little bit of what it was like for Officer Krispy, better known as Aleen. That's his first name, and you will figure that out here through the episode. We go through how he became a cop, what it was like for him going through that process. We talk about what it's like for him being a police officer in today's day and age with everything that's going on. We also go a little bit into the working relationship between fire and PD and what it's like for him. And we also dive a little bit into his mental health and how he has found a way to really make it work for him and the therapies that he uses to make himself whole, and what it does for him in sharing his story on TikTok and putting out good vibes for everybody. So without further ado, let's go ahead. Let's jump right in. What Makes Us Fire family, please help me welcome Aleen, better known as Officer Krispy. It's only another civil service member that I know I can get on this early in the morning for a podcast session. Like,
oh yeah.
There's nobody else that'll be like, oh yeah, I'll wake up at 8:30 in the morning to talk to you. Why not?
Right?
No, there's nobody else that'll do that.
Oh.
Nobody else. I just got off shift, so yeah, let's do this. No big deal. Just so everybody's out there, if you don't know who Mr. Officer Krispy is, he is, yes, I know What Makes Us Fire family. I know he is another guest that I met from social media, albeit TikTok. However, you guys, I have found that this social media platform, TikTok, has become something so much more than what I first thought it was. It's not just a bunch of teenagers dancing and doing stupid crap. It's a bunch of people reaching out and trying to help others in any way they can. It is a platform that has shown to be something that has helped me in my mental health battle and with growing a family, with growing the What Makes Us Fire family. And that's how I met Senior Officer Krispy over here. He actually came through the section of the For You page on my TikTok. And if you're not familiar with TikTok, there is a following section where you can scroll through all the people you're following. And then there's a For You page where TikTok thinks of a rhythm, an algorithm, and they show you videos that may or may not interest you. Usually they do. Well, me being civil service, a firefighter, obviously they got to put a bunch of damn cops on my For You. And Officer Krispy is frozen right now. Yeah, he's frozen. But I'm going to keep talking anyway, and hopefully he comes back. So I saw him through the For You page, and oh my God, he is so frozen. If you guys can see this face, actually, I'm going to screenshot it right now. Boom. Oh yeah, he looks, oh dude, Aleen, bro, I can't wait for you to see this picture. I saw you had great content, you had great everything, and I was like, I gotta follow this guy. He's got a bunch of family members. And so I started reaching out to you on your lives. Yes, I was that creeper. And don't tell me you froze again. What the hell, dude? Are you there? Okay. You keep freezing up on me, man.
I'm here.
Okay. What the hell?
Yeah, you're like skipping in and out. Am I? I am skipping in and out.
You're good now.
Okay. Hopefully it stays
Yeah,
that
you're
way.
good now.
All right.
Yeah.
Hopefully it stays that way. Anyway, so I
And
started stalking you on your lives, and I would message you every now and then. Hey, would you ever be willing to do a podcast? Hey, would you ever be willing to do a podcast? Hey, Crispy, bro, I know there's like 80 people in here right now, but I've sent the same message like 4 times. And then you saw one. Oh, it was a few weeks back. You saw one. You're like, yeah, that'd be cool. Message me. So I messaged you. And having 300,000 plus family members, I figured my message is going to get lost in the multitude of messages I'm sure this guy gets. So I just figured, you know what? I'm going to keep stalking his lives. I'm going to keep trying. And then one day you were on real late, like real late at night. You didn't have a whole bunch of your family on there with you. And I was like, all right, this is my chance. This is my shot. So I messaged you again on your live. And you're like, yeah, man, contact me, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, cool. He's in, he's good. We're gonna do this. And then some other people started inviting, you started following me. And so I finally got a hold of you. I was like, all right, this is gonna work. And we started contacting each other. You started jumping in on a few of my lives, which was awesome. I greatly appreciate it. Then we set up a date finally. And I think we set up a date fairly quickly because you wanted to get in before Kingery.
right.
Yeah. You wanted to be, so technically, you are the first active duty cop I have had on the show.
Nice.
So I have had a retired police officer on the show, a veteran, and that was it. I've been trying to get Kingery on. Me and him are still working on scheduling. Dude works graveyard shift, and I mean, that dude has 1.5 million family members.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard for him to even. I'm sure when I message him, like that message goes to the bottom like immediately.
Oh yeah.
So me and him are still working on scheduling, but you're here. You reached out. We're here. Apparently, last night when I went and love slapped you, when our family went and love slapped you, they told me you were talking about the podcast, and that made me really excited. I was like, "Holy shit, he's actually excited about doing this."
Oh yeah.
It's awesome, man. That's how we met. That's how this whole thing happened. I stalked you finally. You know, it every cop's dream, have a firefighter stalk them.
Right.
So, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, what makes us fire family? You will hear some banter between us back and forth. I'm sure he's going to give it back to me later on when he starts talking and I shut up. But firefighters and cops have this little love-hate relationship going, and we like to banter back and forth. Just know in it's all in good fun. We don't mean anything personal by it. It's just something we do. It's just part of who we are. And we work together very well. Cops and firefighters and EMS, all of us work together very well, but we like to give each other shit from time to time. By the way, don't worry about your language unless it's something that you know, feel like you have to worry about. This podcast is for 18 and up. When it goes on YouTube, it is made for 18 and up, not made for children. So, languages and languages is all good. Where do you come from? Uh, your first name's Alan, so I'm gonna call you
Yep.
Alan. I'm not gonna call you Crispy the whole time. Where are you from, Alan? Where'd you grow up? Where did the mind of Mr. Alan Crispy come from?
Well, I grew up in Indiana, central Indiana. Been born and raised my entire life. And the funny thing is, I never ever wanted to get in law enforcement. I've had an uncle that was in law enforcement as long as I can remember. So yeah, that's technically how it all started. But I never ever thought in my wildest dreams I would be a cop.
So, what did you think about doing when you were younger, when you were a kid?
Well, when I was younger, the funny thing is I wanted to be a pediatrician. Is what I wanted. Weird. That's what I wanted to do.
What, what made you want to be a pediatrician at such a
No,
young age?
no clue. I guess just because going to the doctor when you're young. I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, like borderline. So I was in and out of the doctor quite a bit. So I
Hmm.
guess just growing up, looking at all that stuff, I just thought, it'd be kind of cool to help other kids and, things like that. So that's kind of what I was wanting to be.
What made you stop wanting to be that? At some point, you decided, probably not.
Well, like I said, growing up, my uncle at some point, he just decided to set me up with an interview at a
Mm-hmm.
sheriff's department. And I really didn't want to. I really didn't want it, but I owed him. 'Cause, he helped me out through life growing up. So keeping myself out of trouble. So I went to the interview and I got hired on. That's how it all started.
You say he helped, and you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but the whole point of this is so people can get to know who you are. Let people know that you're a normal human being, that you go through all the trials and tribulations that any other person goes through, and that just because you're a civil servant doesn't mean you're anything more than, you're not the superhuman. You're just a normal man doing an abnormal job, right? We see shit every day. So the whole point of this is to let people know who you are if you're willing to share. Yeah, so that way people can see that, us civil servants, cops, firefighters, we're normal people, right?
Right.
And we have our flaws. We have our things that we battle with just like everybody else. You say your uncle helped you a lot when you were younger. Were you kind of a problem child? Were you having some issues when you were younger?
Well, I wasn't really a problem child, but I grew up on a very bad side of Indianapolis, Indiana. And so growing up in that neighborhood, I was exposed to gang and violence and things like that. So the high school that I went to, I think I was only one out of three white kids in the entire school. So I had to adapt to that. And, so I ran with the wrong crowd. Never been to jail, never been arrested, never did anything like that. But running with the wrong crowd and everything, you tend to do stupid stuff. And every time, the police got involved, of course, I threw out my uncle's name and would call him at all hours of the night, making sure that he's family. And then would get me out of trouble. And so eventually, over and over and over, I finally got a tour of the jail when I was 18 and I didn't like it. So I kind of changed my life around a little bit. And a few years later, he made the call and said that it was time for payback.
All right. And you felt almost a little bit obligated, I'm sure.
I did. Like I said, I didn't want nothing to do with law enforcement at all. I had a pretty good job, making good money, living my life, and I didn't want anything to do with law enforcement. But I thought to myself, you know what? He's helped me out. I'll just go get it over with, even though I'm not going to take the job, or. So I dressed in flip flops, a wife beater T-shirt, and some and a pair of shorts. And it was in December, and I went to the interview because in my mind I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to go. I'm going to fulfill my obligation, right, to my uncle. At least I went to the interview. And if I don't get it, hey, at least I said I went. But unfortunately, 5 minutes later, I was hired on.
You were hired on, huh?
I was hired on.
And well, you were hired on, but you still could have said no. So there was something there that sparked your interest to say, hey, I went, they gave me the job. I just don't want to do it. It's not for me. So what part of that was like, hey, you know what? I'm here. I'm in my flip flops. You're fully expecting not to take the job, and yet you still do. So when did that click for you? What was it that made that click? Like, you know what? All right, cool. Yeah, I'll do it. Why not?
I was hoping they wouldn't hire me just because of the way I was dressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was hoping. The way at least I could tell my uncle, hey, I went, they didn't hire me, so appreciate it. But it was more for me being young. It was the intimidation factor because when I went in there, the major that was interviewing me was like 6'5", and I'm just a small guy, and very intimidating, and I was kind of nervous. But then throughout our 5 to 10 minute conversation, we had a little come Jesus talk, and because he knew a little bit about my background, from talking to my uncle. And I thought to myself, okay, you know what? I'll give this a shot. You're willing to give a 20-something-year-old kid a gun and a badge and police powers and do all this stuff. I'm going to give it a shot. We'll see how this works out.
How was that hiring process for you? Now, the reason why I asked is because obviously we're in a time now, unfortunately, where there's a lot of hate going on towards towards civil service in general, in a lot of the areas, in a lot of the areas of the country. What kind of background checks did they do? How deep did they get involved in your hiring process? Because I want people to really understand it's not just, hey, you're hired, here's a gun and a badge, go do the job. It's not just that. Like, they dig deep. And the only reason why I know that is prior to becoming a firefighter, I actually applied for the local police department here. And I made it all the way up to the board interview, all the way up to the psych eval, made it past the polygraph. But when they were doing the background check, they were bringing up jobs I forgot I even worked.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was so in depth. It was like they were bringing up stuff I forgot I even did in my life, working wise, and where I lived. And for a certain amount, even if it was just for a couple months, they knew where I lived. They knew everything. Like they dug deep
Oh yeah.
into my past, and they called literally everybody, even the references that I didn't put down. They were contacting. They were contacting all these people in my life to kind of get character evaluation on me. Was that similar to you?
Not exactly, because I'm almost on my 20th year. So you got to figure 20 years ago, it wasn't that deep because we didn't have what we have now. So they did do a background investigation on me. I had to do a polygraph, normal things, but it wasn't that in depth. I think mainly because of who my uncle was. They kind of knew me anyway as a kid growing up. So, but yeah, I mean, I still had to, do the background. I had to do the polygraph. I didn't have to take any testing or anything like that. It was literally a 10-minute sit down talk between me and this major. And that was really it. I was hired on. I still had to go through the process though. And that's how it was. Once everything cleared and I started training, and that's how it all started. But
So
yeah,
the
you're
way,
right. Nowadays it's crazy. It's 6 months or more just to go through the hire process.
right, it is. It is a very long process. And so me, it was like almost 12 years ago when I did mine. Um, So yeah, even just that 8-year difference definitely changes a bunch because technology grew tremendously in the early 2000s. Like, people don't even understand we weren't able to do half the shit we were able to do in the early 2000s that we're able
Oh
to do
yeah.
now. But even still, they're like, yeah, the job's yours if you pass the polygraph, you pass the background check, you pass, all this other stuff, the physical agility, you got to make sure that you're physically fit. Like, if you pass all those things, then the job is yours. We're offering you the job, but you still have to do these things to get the job,
Right.
right? So it wasn't just, hey, we're offering you the job, here's the gun and the badge, get going. Did they send you to get your, here in Texas it's T close, but I'm not entirely sure what it is for you over there.
Yeah, so like exactly what you just said. So once they hire you, then it's expected you have a year. Go to the academy, and in that academy, you have to have physical agility. You got all the testing. You have to pass, because if you don't pass, then you don't get to keep the job.
Right. And how did you do during all that? Did you find out a little bit more about the job that you were more excited about? Did it make you kind of freak out a little bit more? How did that go?
Yeah, I was a little shocked because I was like, oh boy, I better start working out, getting in shape, because back then, I didn't care. So, but yeah, I was given some time and I got in shape and it worked out perfectly. And it was scary. It was scary, just being in that environment. But you start training, and you start doing all these cool things. You're like, wow, this is actually kind of cool. This was like really fun, and it's going to work out.
At any point, did you start thinking maybe this wasn't going to be for you, or did it just grow the passion more through your training?
Yes. Of course, at the very beginning of the academy, you're thinking, because you've got to do all this exercises and running, and they put your body through the ultimate test. And at one point, it's like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go. I mean, I don't like running. This is crazy. But in the back of my mind, I thought, no, I'm doing it for my uncle. He got me this far. I'm just gonna push forward, and I'll give it my best.
What about when it came to learning the law and how to deal with suspects and all that other stuff? Did any of that kind of shock you? Because believe it or not, being a civil service member and even as a firefighter, we have to learn how to deal with certain types of people that are mentally unstable, people that are high as a kite, people that are just bad in general. when you started learning about those type of people and how to deal with those situations, did any of that kind of shock you or kind of turn you off a little bit? I know for me, being in the fire service, granted it was a lot of fire, but on the EMS side, learning how to deal with certain types of people was kind of a little bit of a shock to the system, in that I've never had to deal with those type of people in my life before. And
Yeah.
so now I'm treating them and taking care of them and trying to relate to them on some level. Did you find that as a little difficult? Did you find that to be something you were ready to try? For me, I was scared shitless. I was like, I hope this guy doesn't stab me. I hope this woman doesn't freak out. Like, but what was it like for you?
At first, not really, because again, growing up in the area that I did, that's, I was like on that other opposite of the fence too. So going through the training, I wasn't necessarily scared going up against a criminal because I kind of knew how they thought, right? I kind of knew what they were going to do possibly. But then when you get out of training and you actually get out there and do the job, and then you actually face that person, you're like, oh crap, this is kind of scary. Your heart pump, because back in the day, we didn't know anything about autism. We didn't know anything about mental health. So going to those type of calls and dealing with those type of people, we just, in our minds back then, we just thought that they just wanted to fight. They didn't want to listen to us. So yeah, I mean, that was the scary part for me. That was the culture shock for me, is dealing with these individuals with mental health, because we didn't know nothing about that back then.
Right. And that's also something very new that everybody needs to understand, is that because you've seen those stories where, a cop was afraid for his life, so he defended himself. Well, that person was actually mentally ill. Well,
Yeah,
how the hell is he supposed to know that? How, we are
right,
not mental health professionals. We are civil service. We're called because there's a disturbance going on. Somebody's hurt. Somebody's threatening somebody's life. We don't know why that person's threatening somebody else's life. We don't know it's because they have a mental health issue. We just know there is a threat and it needs to be dealt with.
right.
And had we known it was a mental health issue, maybe, yes, absolutely, there should be a different way to deal with it. But we don't know that going in. Like, how the hell are we supposed to know the complete medical past history of somebody that's causing an issue? There's no way to know that. There's no way to know that. And people nowadays, especially this damn freaking media that just assumes that we should know these things, and then we get the shit end of the stick in how we deal with them, because, well, he had autism, or, well, he was depressed, or he was on medication. We don't know that. We're going into a situation completely blind, completely blind. And when
Exactly.
you go into completely blind and you know this person's being violent, it doesn't matter why they're being violent. They're just being violent. And we have to do the things that we needed to do to not only protect ourselves, but to protect the public. So when did you guys start, when did they start kind of bringing that awareness to the PD side to you guys on how to deal with that?
So about 7, 8 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to CIT. That's a 40-hour week-long course class, and you have to go through all this stuff, and you have to do all kind of interactions. They bring actors in, that will, simulate a call for service, and this person may have autism or they may have a mental health issue. So during that whole week, they train you on how to deal with these individuals, what signs to look for, we don't think that it's just somebody that just doesn't want to listen to us, like you said. At least we have another tool on our belt that, okay, when we respond to a call, okay, well, at least we know that this person may have autism, so that's why he's acting the way he is, or he's got something wrong, mentally health. So yeah, it helps. It helps. So ever since I've been out of CIT, it opened a whole new world for me. I mean, it's a shock
Yeah, it
that,
is. And for everybody that doesn't know what CIT is, critical incident training, or critical incident stress training, one or the other. Some of them are CIST. And what that basically is trying to teach our first responders, cops, firefighters, and EMS on how to deal with a critical incident and the stress that it causes, i.e., because it does cause us stress when we go on the call, guys, believe it or not. yeah, sometimes it does look like we don't care, but everything we do is we're doing it off of our training. Training, by the way, that has been cleared by boards, by regulations, by laws. All these things, all this training that we get has to be approved by a bunch of people, doctors, people that have been there. All that training gets approved, and before they even teach it to us, and they do studies on that training, and it's not just, hey, do this in this situation because we told you so. No, it's, hey, do this in this situation because statistics show more likely than not this is going to be the outcome. So we play the
Right.
numbers. And that's something we have to do. Unfortunately, yes, not every call is going to be the same, but we have to play the numbers. We have to play it as safely as we can do. uh, was there any point in time, or has there been any point in time in your career where you have felt that maybe the job was getting a little bit too much, or especially nowadays? And the reason why I ask is because, and we're going to get into the whole thing about what's going on today, but during your career now, have you found any point before the whole everything's going on now? Did you find a point where you maybe thought changing careers, or this wasn't for you, or man, I need to get out at any point in time?
Not one plain time, no. Ever since I started, I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
And what part of
Even
that do you
even
love?
today.
What
Just
part of it is it that you love?
responding to all these calls, for help. People are asking for help, advice. Because like we're not only we're marriage counselors, right? We're all kinds of these counselors, and we're not even certified and all that, right? But we still
Mm.
show up. We still give these people our advice. We try to help these people out, and so that was the big thing for me. I got called to so many houses, helping couples out or helping somebody out with, if they were ever having issues, mentally, just talking to people, sitting down and actually getting to know them. Because believe it or not, I have a story to tell just like everybody else. And I think growing up where I grew up really helped me out in my career because running to some of these calls, I was literally able to sit down and say, you know what, man, I've been through the same thing you did. I went through the same thing you did. I grew up in the same area you did. So that helped me out a lot because it taught me how to talk to these people.
I think that's actually very beneficial when you're able to work in an area where you grew up, and you're able to really kind of understand the culture that you're in and that you're working in, because there is different cultures in different parts of a city, and different parts in different cities, and different parts of a city and different parts of the country. The mindset is different, and we learn that in training. A lot of it is economic status. It's actually, a lot of it is economic status that
Yeah.
actually, believe it or not, has a lot to do with how the community reacts and acts to
Oh yeah.
authority. And you being able to work in an area where you grew up, that's actually extremely beneficial, but it's not always the case for everybody. I want to get in. We're going to get a little serious here, because one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is, you being an active duty police officer, you have been through everything that has happened with the whole movement against police officers. The movement of defund the police, the BLM movement. Now, I am not discrediting those movements. At the basis of those movements, like the raw base of those movements, I can understand. It's everything else that is getting piled on top of them that are making them out to some to be in a bad light. It's the bad actors that are
Yeah.
making them look worse than what they are. I had a guest on a while back, and he said, had we been able to call it something else, we probably could have gotten the message out a lot better. Like defund the police. Instead of saying defund the police, why don't we say retrain the police? Or let's have some type of, let's figure out what we can do to make responses better. But to say just defund the police, it's like you're asking for anarchy. And
Right.
when people hear that, they don't understand what the movement's really about. Black Lives Movement is about training the police. It's not about, like in my opinion, it's not about just cops going after black people, because if you look at the numbers, the numbers don't support what some are saying, right? Numbers,
Correct.
I'm just talking numbers. Everybody has their own experience, and I don't discredit that experience. If you had a bad experience, I'm sorry you had that bad experience. But Officer Crispy here is not that officer that treated you like a dick, right? Or he was a dick. Like, don't let the one bad apple spoil the bunch. Don't let the person that creates an issue be the definition for all. And
Right.
I think that's being lost nowadays. Have you come in contact with people like that? Have you had to experience anything like that? I mean, we see New York with people freaking throwing water and piss and God knows what else on these cops, and the cops were told, don't do anything, don't defend yourself. We don't, what the hell's in that water? There can be blood, there can be some type of contagion,
Oh, yeah.
and they can't defend themselves? No, 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 I don't agree with that. I don't
Yeah.
agree with that at all. Have you had to deal with any of that?
Not that bad, but I've come across a lot of people who, say, "Hey, why did you kill this person?" Well, I was never in that city, so how can you ask me why I killed that person? Um, you know, and so I get a lot of that kind of stuff, especially on my social media platform. And I try to explain to these people, hey, just because I'm in law enforcement doesn't mean I was there that day and I killed this individual. Do I agree with it? I don't know. I don't know the facts of the story, and I think that's where the media plays in, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's happened, and the media puts it on this big platform, and everybody believes it when they don't
Before
really.
the story could be even
Exactly.
told,
Exactly.
they are putting out the story before. It's all speculation, and then that speculation turns to truth with a lot of people because they don't know what happened. All they see is an officer killed somebody, and it sucks. Anybody out there that goes out on the job that just wants to kill somebody is not a police officer. They're not.
Right.
They are not a police officer. Every police officer I have talked to does not hope and wish that they can discharge their firearm when they go to work. They don't want to. That's the last thing they want to do. Having that on your conscience of taking another human being's life is not something that people look forward to. You would have to be a complete sociopath and freaking crazy person to want that and then have no feeling about it, you know?
Oh yeah.
So cops are not sociopaths. Are there cops that are sociopaths? Sure, I'm sure there's a couple out there. However, again, don't let the minority define the majority. There are way more good civil service members out there than there are shitty ones. Yes, there are shitty ones. I will give that. But you cannot say, hey, why did you kill this person if you weren't even there? But just because you're associated with the blue, they're already tying you to it. Like, if
Yeah.
that cop did it, you must want to do it too. No, no. Hey, that person over there looks like you. He just robbed and kicked a baby. That means you're going to rob and kick a baby. That's like saying that, you
All right.
know, just because they look the same. It doesn't work, right? Why do we do that with cops? We don't do that with anybody else. And it's becoming an issue with people not being able to really understand the difference between the two. The point is that we don't associate one bad person's actions with somebody else that looks like that person or associated with that person. So why do
Right.
we do it? Why do we do it with civil service members? What's your theory behind that? Why do you think that people are being so moved by this idea that because you're associated as a police officer, that any other police officer that does something stupid, you are now responsible for? Where do you think that idea came from?
Well, I think it all just comes from the media, because I think everybody just is so, just because we're law enforcement, doesn't matter where we're at in the world. Everybody sees us in that family, and they just assume that we're all just one, and we believe the same thing. So it's going to be a struggle to get the word out there that hey, we're all different. Yeah, it's like you said, there's going to be bad apples, in an apartment. Nobody's perfect. They have to also understand, look at the facts. Look at the facts first before you start, blaming somebody for doing what they did. and look at the statistics too, because again, the media hypes everything up, and before they can even get the investigation complete, we're already being guilty.
Oh, before the investigation could even start, because somebody
Right.
with a cell phone, videotaped it. Now, don't get me wrong. I think people that do that are not necessarily a bad thing, because it has pointed out some bad actors that probably would not have been found out otherwise.
Absolutely.
However, because of the now in this day and age, if somebody with a cell phone sees you having to use force to get somebody to the ground, they're automatically assuming it's because, well, Alan, you're a white cop and you had to take down a minority suspect, whether it be a black or Hispanic or Asian suspect. And now it's because just because you're a white cop, you get lumped in with the bad actors. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Doesn't matter what your history is. Doesn't matter that you have all these recognitions. It doesn't matter that you have been this upstanding citizen. You know what I mean?
Hi, my name is Mike. I'm calling from cheapestinsurancdeals.com. My call today because we partnered with the country's top auto insurance providers, and we're looking to save up to 30% on what you're currently paying. You are currently paying for auto insurance, right?
Ask him if he can give you better internet service.
Oh, shit. Oh, hey, we would like to talk to you about your car's warranty. You guys all seen the damn memes and videos out there.
Oh, yeah.
So you think it's the media, obviously. And yeah, the media plays a huge part in it. But my theory and my belief is people are not that dumb. People can make up their own minds, right?
Right.
So why does the media have this quote unquote power over people's ideas? Look, people can decide to say, hey, this is what the media is showing me, but you can decide to say, hey, let me do more research. Hey, the investigation's not over. Let me wait before I make my opinion. You are smart enough to make that choice. People are smart enough to make that choice, but they don't. They automatically believe the first thing they see or the first thing they hear. The speculation becomes the truth, and they just won't listen to reason, whatever. Where did that come from? I don't understand how they allow themselves to really just believe what's being told to them for no reason, really, without thinking it logically through. Why do you think that is? You think part of my theory is that people it's that culture of wanting to know now. I need this now. I want this now. They want to understand now. So they're going to believe the first thing that makes a little bit of sense. It might not be complete sense, but it makes a little bit of sense. So therefore it must be true. That's my theory. Right. What do you think it is?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, everybody wants everything now. So that's why you have all these drive-thrus, right? At the restaurants. Everybody wants their food now. Everybody wants you want internet service now, right? We want everything now. And I think the media has that power because they have the power to literally film what they got to film, and they can have it on the news within 30 minutes, right? And everybody watches TV, everybody's got a cell phone, everybody streams. So all of a sudden, that's the first thing that they see without even looking at what happened. Now, I will admit, I've watched a lot of videos, a lot of shootings, a lot of things on YouTube, and I thought to myself, that officer could have handled a little bit better. He could have, if he would have just talked to that person a little bit longer, figured something out. Yeah, it could have ended out maybe differently. Again, we're playing Monday Night Quarterback here, right? So we have to think, and we have to react on a split-second decision, no matter what the issue is. And a lot of individuals don't understand that. And then we make that decision in half of a second, right? And then guess what? Everybody else gets a whole month or two to go through that decision. And if you were right or wrong and what happened in that situation.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't know why it became that way. I don't know why people just can't be patient for stuff to happen like that. And not to mention, they're commenting and having opinions based on something they literally have nothing, no minute idea on what that situation is really like to be in it right then and there. It is so easy, like you said, to Monday night quarterback, watch a video and be like, oh, he could have done this, he could have done that. Sure, yeah. We do the same thing in the fucking fire service. That's why we have debriefs and everything else at the end of a call, because it's like, okay, what went right? What went wrong? What can we do next time? And we have to go back. But the reason why we have to do that is because a lot of our decisions are made on our training, on our reaction. We get trained to deal with those types of things, and we rely on our training. And our training, that it goes for all civil service. In your training, when it comes to scene safety, your safety is number one.
Right.
Because if you're not safe or if you're hurt, how the hell are you going to help anybody else? Right? And we're
Absolutely
there to
right.
help. So when we make those kind of calls, we have to consider our safety first, then whoever's there second. Because if we're hurt or gone, then how the hell are we going to help anybody else?
Right.
Has there ever been a time, I mean, you've been an officer for 20 years. I'm sure you've had to go to the court system and you've had to be a witness and all this other stuff. Has there ever been a time where you've had an issue with the city or with the attorney general or anything like that?
Not one time.
Not one time. So you have a pretty
No.
good working relationship with your attorney general and everything and your judges.
Yep, absolutely.
That's good. That's good. So that takes away that whole area of where I was going to go with that. Well, because people don't really understand. People don't understand the whole complexity of what it is to be a police officer, right? Police officers are your soldiers. They're the front line, right? They're the ones that are going in, taking care of the problem, hopefully apprehending anybody that needs to be apprehended safely, hopefully without any, issues. But if there is, then that creates a whole nother set of issues and legalities and everything else that go into it. And then once all that is said and done, that incident is not over, because now you have the jailers that have to deal with them. Now you have the DA, the district attorney, that has to deal with them. Then you have the judge that has to decide whether or not the charges are going to be pressed against that individual. And then if it is, let's go ahead and keep it going. Now the jail system, has to take care of this inmate, has to house them, has to feed them. And then now this person has to wait for a court date. Now the judge, and then you got to do a jury if it's a jury type of conviction, or what's the word I'm looking for here? Trial, if it's a jury trial. And there's a bunch of different types of trials too, depending on the severity of the incident. And all these things happen from that one incident, from that one 911 phone call. This whole ball from that one incident gets rolling, and it becomes pretty huge. And all that can be extremely stressful for the soldier, for the first responder, for the cop. Why? Because that cop was the first one to do anything. So everything, the whole case, the whole conviction, everything is on that one cop, and that one cop better have done everything right. Have you found that to be a little bit stressful? I mean, that is a lot of responsibility on one person. I mean, you're not a lawyer, you're not a judge, you're not a district attorney, you're not the attorney general. I mean, you you're just the guy that apprehends them. And then you have to find the evidence. You have to get the witness statements. You have to do the paperwork. You have to, I mean, there's so many things that you are responsible for. And then you're not even sure if it's going to actually play out the way it's supposed to. I mean, that's got to be stressful as hell.
Oh yeah, the paperwork that we have to do, it's like you said, we have to find all the evidence. We have to literally prove our case, why we arrested this individual, why we placed him in the custody of the jail, right? Because we just took their rights away. we put them in the jail. We arrested them. So now the work, it's not over. So now we have to collect all the evidence, and we have to submit all that evidence in the property room, and we have to log everything down. We have to write a massive report. We better make sure our wording's correct, everything's correct on the report, because then we got to turn it into the prosecutor. And then once you submit all that, in a way, like in my eyes, okay, once we get all that done, we turn everything in, and we just move on to the next project, next case, right? We go out there, we do our job. And, some of these cases, depending on how severe they are, could take years. They'll go through the judicial system, and then next thing you know, you're getting an email, a year and a half later, saying that this case is going to trial. So now you've got to go back to that mindset and relive that night, that you had to take down this person, and it's stressful. You just got to go. It's just like a revolving door. Every case, some cases are done in a month or two. Some take years. And then you get that phone call from the prosecutor's office, and yeah, you got to reread your entire report. You got to look over all your evidence. You got to put your mindset back when that day happened.
Yeah. So when they put you back in that headspace, does that bring up bad memories? Does it make you, do you like remember that feeling? Do you remember everything? Because a lot of us are always told, you should leave your work at work and don't bring it home. But I think that's a horrible saying, because our emotions and our feelings, no matter where they came from, are our emotions and our feelings. Like, how do you just leave that alone, and how do you separate it? Now, as civil service and first responders, we learned really quickly how to disassociate our feelings during the incident. And we learned how to hide our human emotions during an incident. Have you had the experience where it was difficult for you to do that, to allow the call to be the call and then just kind of move on?
Sometimes, it depends on the call. Sometimes there's emotions involved, and we're all human, so you can't just not have the emotions and do the work and move on to the next call. Sometimes there's emotions. Sometimes you do get too much involved. It depends on the situation. But yeah, it's hard to leave work at work and go home and not have to worry about work, because so it depends on the case. A year and a half later, when you get that call, all those emotions are coming back through now. The whole night, you can visualize everything as if it happened an hour ago. You're rereading the report, and you're like, oh my gosh, I remember that. You're looking at all the evidence, and so yeah, everything brings back to that night in question. So that's super stressful.
Have you found any issue with your home life because of the job?
Absolutely.
What kind, if you don't mind me asking?
It's a lot of women, when they when you're married or dating somebody in law enforcement, a lot of women don't understand, right? So of course, when you come home from work, they want to know how your day was. They want to ask a lot of questions because they're interested naturally, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think, as far as me, it's like, well, I don't really want to talk about it, because something traumatic could have happened, or you just don't want to relive that situation. So, you try to just put on a fake smile and say, oh, everything was good, I don't want to talk about it. Well, then they get mad because they want to know. They think that you don't want to talk to them. So you have to really learn how to communicate to your partner and let them understand, hey, it was a bad day, I really don't want to talk about it. Maybe when I calm down and everything, we'll discuss it. And I think that happens in a lot of marriages and a lot of relationships, because the other side gets upset and it causes an argument, and before you know it, it gets worse and worse and worse. And I think that's why the divorce rate's so high with law enforcement and first responders, because of situations like that.
Yeah, and that's a reoccurring theme that I've had with a lot of my guests on that are in civil service, is that communication is so hard to really learn with a first responder, because part of that communication process is non-communication, is allowing the person that went through that shitty day to process it on their own. And any spouse of a civil servant, cop, firefighter, whatever, they're not keeping it from you because they don't think you're worthy of knowing. They're not keeping it from you because they don't think you'd understand. It's my opinion that we would love to share everything with you. We would love to be completely open, but we also know that the shit that we see, the stuff we have to do, isn't normal. It is not. It is abnormal. So we have to process it and then try to figure out a way to talk to you about it without maybe causing any type of stress towards you, our spouse. We need to process it and really understand what happened before we start talking about it with our spouses. We don't want to just be like, oh yeah, I saw this person, then I had to shoot him 4 times and I saw the bullet hole through his head that I caused. We don't want to talk about that right away. Let us process it.
Right.
Let me say, hey, it was a bad day. I was shot at, I had to shoot back. And unfortunately, the suspect perished. I feel horrible about it. We need to process what we should and shouldn't say. It's not that we don't want to tell you all the details, but there are some details that you don't need to know, and you can still get the big picture, right?
Right.
You can still understand what's going on. And communication is huge, huge in any relationship, but I think even more so in a civil service relationship, in that we have to be completely open with where our headspace is at. Because if we don't, we are going to allow what happens on the job and how we disassociate on the job. We're going to start doing that at home with the emotions and the stresses at home, right? We're going to start doing the same thing we do on the job. The stress starts getting high. We start disassociating. We start just reacting instead of processing. And when you do that at home, it's not the same type of stress. Our bodies and minds don't know that. All our minds know is, oh, this is stressful. Let me do what I know works. And it doesn't work in the home life.
Right.
And that can cause some issue. And you're right. Divorce rate, I think it goes lawyers, doctors, police, fire, and then military. Those are like the top 5 in divorce rates. And a lot of it is being tied to not having an outlet for the stresses that are caused in the job. The job creates stress. Communication is not learned. Nobody teaches us, becoming civil service members, how to deal with the mental stresses of the job.
No.
And in the academy, I'm sure it's the same in police academy. They're going to, okay, you're going to see some shit. All right, well, how do I deal with that when I see it? Just deal with it. Well, nobody tells you what you can do, what routes you can take to deal with it healthy. They just say, just deal with it. You're going to see it. If you can't deal with it, get out of the job. And it's like, well, no, I could deal with it. I would just like to deal with it a little bit more in a healthy aspect. Can you help me with that? No. And that would be something I would like to see be put into the training and into getting your certification when you go to school to learn. I would like to see that part get put in there. Like, this is what you can do to make sure you stay mentally healthy, on top of, because we harp on physical health all the time. We harp on cops harp on doing the best thing for the suspect so you're not unnecessarily hurting them. We do the same thing when treating a patient or when we try to get somebody out of a burning building, right? We're always concerned about everybody else's physical health, but nothing is taught about our mental health and how to deal with the stresses of the job. And that would be something I think would be a good, at least 1 week. Hey, this is what we can do. When you're starting to feel this way, these are the avenues you can take. These are the resources you have. This is a system that we're going to start, a peer support system, whatever, just something. That way, when these first responders and civil service personnel go out into the world and start doing the job, and it will happen at some point in time, they will be affected. They know how to deal with it in a healthy manner.
Yeah, we don't even think about that on the job. When you're going to a call, you don't think about your mental health. You don't think about the stress that's going to cause you an hour later or 2 hours later or tomorrow. Your main focus is to help that person. Even though if you had to, take down a suspect, once you take down a suspect, then we go into life-saving mode, right? So
Mhm.
that's where we become the first responders and wait for you guys to show up to help out. And so it's we don't even think about us at all. We're like on the back burner. We don't even think about, am I going to make it home tonight? We go out there and we do the job because we're in that state of mind.
I
And
I
you
think
know,
I'm going to challenge that we don't think about this. I think we do, but it's on a subconscious level
yes,
because we have trained ourselves to do the thing that's right to keep us safe. So though we're going in and it feels like we're not thinking about us, subconsciously we kind of are because of the muscle memory of the training that we've had to do the things to make sure we stay
right,
safe first. So we are thinking about ourselves first, but that's only so we can stay safe. And then
right,
it feels like when we go into it, we're not thinking about ourselves, but really subconsciously our muscle memory and our training take over.
right,
And a lot of the times we can't humanize what's going on. We can't be emotional when we go into a situation. We have to turn it into a job. I say that a lot with the fire service, especially because it's like, say we go to a car accident and it's horrific, right? You see people screaming, child crying, a mother leaned over the steering wheel, and you're just like, to anybody else, it's a horrific scene, right? But to first responders that come up and see this, it's like, okay, that's patient one, that's patient two, that's patient three. We need to cut here, we need to cut there. We're going to get the jaws here, call life, like it's a job. It's a
yep,
job. We have to dehumanize it because if we didn't, we'd cry all the time and be freaked out all the time and
yeah,
worried all the time. Now, afterwards, sometimes, yeah, we have to do that critical incident stress debriefing and kind of, okay, how do you feel about it? Well, I don't know. I still haven't processed it yet. Well, you have blood all over your legs. Oh, I do. Like you don't even realize what you were doing because you were just doing a job. And
right.
then it's not until after the fact that you're like, holy crap, that was an 8-year-old. Oh my God. Oh my God, we just went through that. And then sometimes it's like, all right, what's for lunch?
Yep,
Yeah, it's a hard thing to explain how
it is.
I've noticed civil service minds work when it comes to tragedy and trauma and those crazy messed up calls. We can see the most horrific, gory, nasty stuff and then be like, all right, can't wait to eat dinner. Or you'll have somebody that's like gets hit a little bit harder and they take it in a little bit different. And you're like, okay, so what do we do with this? It's in the fire service. I'm not entirely sure about PD, but I have known in the fire service we have an international union that it started really focusing on mental health these past couple years. Military, talking about mental health, the PTSD, the 22 a day. It's become, I hate the word popular, but it has been a very popular topic for military personnel and PTSD when they come home to get treatment, as it
Mhm.
should be. I'm not disregarding it at all. However, I think civil service, cops, fire, EMS, dispatch, nurse, doctors, that kind of conversation hasn't really started happening until as of late. It hasn't really become more of a hot topic issue as of late. And I think it should have happened sooner, but the fact that it's happening now is good. Have you, on the PD side, on the blue side, have you started seeing a shift in how mental health is looked at within the job? I know there's a huge shift in the fire side. I'm not 100% on the blue side. I don't know exactly how that's going on that side.
We've seen a lot of it recently. Like back in the day, it wasn't, but now we're starting to see a lot of it. So we have, we have mental health people that would, reach out to us. We have numbers that we can call in case we do need to speak to somebody. But as well as I do, we're guys, right? And we're in this profession. So the last thing you really want to do is call that number, even though they say it's confidential, right? Last
Hmm.
thing you want to do is call that number because what's going to happen? You call that number and you tell this person, I had a shitty day. This is what I seen on shift, and this is what I went through. It's causing me a lot of mental problems. I'm just stressed, whatever. And then for our mind, it's like, okay, Now we're going to have to go through another psychological test. What if I don't pass it? What if I have to take another one? Or, so in our minds, we get to thinking, it could cost us our job. What if it doesn't work out? So we go through other avenues. I think we form a group, amongst us, and we talk about it that way. And going back to the spouse, talking to them, the last thing you want to do is tell your spouse how dangerous your job is, right? Because all that's going to do is put stress on them, him or her. Because now in him or her mind, your 12-hour shift, they're thinking, oh my God, what's he doing? Is he or she doing? Are they fighting anybody right now? Are they gonna make it home okay? So again, that's why we don't talk a lot for our spouses, because we don't want them to know the actual true dangers of our job.
That's very true. And I have noticed that, I mean, I know you've probably done the research and the statistics, and I see a lot of people on your live reaching out to you. Hey, I'm hurting. Hey, this is going on. I'm not in a good place. And you stop and you talk to them for a minute on your live. Hey, it's going to be okay. Reach out. Let me know if there's anything I can do. So I already know that you are an advocate for people opening up and taking those first steps to getting better with themselves. But what people don't realize is, especially for men, and we're going to talk men here because we are both men, statistics show that people that commit suicide, like fully commit suicide, 70 to 80% of all people that commit suicide are men. Right? Now, women attempt suicide a lot more. Okay? I'm not that's a truth. However, to actually commit the suicide, 70 to 80% of all people that actually commit the act and die are men. Everybody that has ever thought about suicide, only 45% of all the men that have thought about suicide, only 45% have thought about talking to somebody or reaching out. That means there are more men out there that are not saying anything,
right,
to anybody about what's going on in their head and how they feel. Why? Why is that? Because there's a stigma, right? Man up,
right.
Man up.
Right.
You're the one that's supposed to be taking care of everybody. Not only that, not only you're a man, you're a fucking cop. You're a fucking firefighter. Man the fuck up. Step up. Why the hell are you doing the job if you're having stress? Don't let it bother you. We get told these things, right? We get told these things, and in our head, if we start talking about it, that means we're displaying a weakness. But
exactly.
But if you win the lottery, it's okay for you to show happiness. If you're pissed off because some dude hit on your girl, you can be angry. Man, your boys got your back. They're ready to back you up. You can be angry as hell and punching walls and getting ready to beat some ass. And that's a perfectly fine emotion to display. But at some point in time, sadness, being upset, don't show that. You're a man.
Shows weakness.
Why? When did that human emotion, because it's just another human emotion, of all the emotions we can have, empathy, happiness, sadness, whatever, sadness was the one that's taboo, even though it's just as natural as all the others.
Yeah.
When did that happen, and why is that such an issue?
I think for a lot of us, growing up, you look at your parents, right? So, you look at dad, right? Dad was always the breadwinner. Dad was always out working 12, 15, 16 hours a day to keep the family going. And you never see dad upset in front of mom or everybody. You always see dad, crying or upset in a room somewhere because he doesn't want to display that. And I think as kids, we see that. And then that's what we growing up, then in our mind, we're like, okay, we're guys. We're supposed to go out and get a job. We're supposed to provide for the family. We're supposed to be this tough guy, because if we show any kind of weakness or any kind of sadness, well, then people are going to look down on us. Hey, you're not doing your job as a guy because you're weak. So I think that's what it starts off with a lot of people. I think it starts with just growing up, because, back in the day, growing up as a kid, I'm 44 years old. So back then, that's what we saw. You never saw, mom, you never saw a dad display any kind of weakness or sadness around anybody. Only if you caught him in the act, hidden somewhere. And I think growing up, we learned that. So we learned that we had to fight for what we have. We learned that we can't be sad around other people. And if people find out that you're sad, well, now you're not a man. You just took your man card away because you're sad and you're weak. And I think that's where it all started for me and for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that's where it kind of started for me as well, is seeing, not really seeing my father break down, or my stepfather break down for that matter. You know, they're both military men, Navy and Marine, and they never broke down in front of me as a kid. And it was like, okay, well, shit, if I just saw what they went through, I just heard the news, but yet they're not crying or anything. All right, okay, cool. All right, no, not gonna cry if something sad happens. But then as I grew up and realized that, you know, I had some childhood trauma on top of some trauma recently, I found that being able to actually show that sadness, to be able to display it or talk about it, you're actually fighting the stigma, meaning you are fighting. You're fighting. And what is fighting? That is strength. You're literally going against the grain, and to go against the grain means you are fighting, you are showing strength, you are strong, in that you're not allowing an opinion to define what you can and cannot do. That to me is strength. That to me, you're fighting against the stigma. And when you're fighting against the stigma, you're showing strength. The stigma being, you're a man, don't show sadness, don't cry. But if you're willing to show that vulnerability, and I put quotation marks over vulnerability, it's just another human emotion. You're okay with showing anger, right?
Yeah.
So if you're okay with showing that vulnerability, the sadness in front of people and be open about it, that means you have the strength. You're fearless in that you do not care what other people think about you. That's huge. Everybody talks about not caring what people think. I don't care what this person thinks about me. I don't care what they think about me. Really, go ahead, go tell them how sad you are. No, I'm not going to do that. Well, why?
Right.
Well, because you care about what they think about you. If you are willing and able and find the strength within yourself to be that person that really doesn't care and you're just worried about you, if you're able to do that, you are being strong. You are being a man, in that you're not giving a shit what another man talks or thinks or says about you. Right?
Absolutely
We
right.
we always try to man up. Oh, I don't give a shit what he said about me. Fuck him, whatever. Okay, well then be vulnerable in front of him. Again, quotation marks. So show your sadness. Show how you really feel to people. That takes some strength. That takes you fighting the stigma. That takes a lot of strength. I think it means that you're more of a man to be able to do that, because you don't feel like you have to hide.
Yeah,
That makes
and I
sense.
think and I think over the years, I think as guys we learn, because a lot of us, you reach that breaking point, right, where you just break down. You have no choice but to break down. And also, and who's watching you? Your wife, girlfriend, fiance, your buddy, right? And then that's when you actually finally know it's okay. You have emotions. It's okay to break down, because, like you just said, a lot more people will literally come forward and praise you for that. You be behind you 100%, support you, and you're like, oh, okay, wow, I didn't know that was going to happen. Okay, cool. That teaches us to now have these emotions. And so when we go through these traumatic experiences and we do need to break down, in our mind, again, we're guys, but in our mind, we know that we can break down and reach out, because there are people out there that support us and that are behind us and that will help us out regardless.
Exactly. Exactly. So anybody out there, man, we're talking to you in general right now. Women too, it's okay to show sadness and all this stuff, but we are specifically talking about men right now, because right now that's the highest number of people not talking about it, that really want to or have thought about doing something, but they just don't want to seek help. So men, it's okay. Trust me, there's more people out there that give a shit and don't look at it as a weakness. And as a matter of fact, look at it as a strength, that you're willing to be who you are truly to them. Like, it's a hard concept to understand. I know it took me a long time to understand it too, but start talking about it. If you are in that situation where you have no idea what's going on, the first step is admitting it to yourself, and then start talking about it. Let the people in your life know where you're at mentally, where your emotions are. You need to be able to be okay with you. first and foremost, because if you're not going to be okay for anybody else. Guaranteed, you're
Right.
going to see something's wrong, especially if they're close to you. Thank you for going through all that with me. I know mental health in the civil service realm has actually become a very big deal with What Makes Us Fire, the podcast, and all the social media pages and everything else, because I think it's something that does need to start being talked about a lot more. I think we need to start letting people know it's okay to talk about it, that it is not a bad thing to have a mental health disorder, and it is a disorder. Your brain is literally not firing like the norm, like the masses. Of course, there's an exception to every rule, but in general, when you have a type of disorder, it just means that your mind is not producing the same chemicals or firing the same way as the majority of other people, just like any other disease. So I appreciate you kind of going through that with me. I want to dive in a little bit into what it's like working with firefighters and EMS on a scene with you. I haven't been able to bust your balls a whole lot. One, because my internet connection was being shit this whole time. Secondly, because, well, fire and police work a lot together. And we always bust each other's balls about, oh, you guys won't come in until we clear the scene. And it'll be like, well, you guys call us because you don't want to do the paperwork and you want this person to go to the hospital instead of taking them to jail like you should. And we always bullshit back and forth. Obviously, we're doing the best thing for the person at the time, but we just like to bust balls. The cops will never call us just to bullshit. Hey, get out here. They only have to work an 8-hour shift. They know we're there for 24 hours. So we got to come no matter what. They get to go home in 8 hours and we're still going to be there. So let's make fire department work, assholes. But, but that's not the case. We're actually doing the best thing for the patient or the person at the time. What is it like where you're at? How do you guys work together? And I'm pretty sure it's similar in that with your working relationship with the fire department or EMS. How does it work with you over there? How do you feel that relationship is?
It's like we're family, right? So it's a big city. So you may not even come across half of these individuals, at some point. But when you arrive on a scene, it's time to go to work. Once work's done, then you can cut up afterwards and get to know everybody. But yeah, I mean, we have fun. It's just one big family, and so we know you guys like to sleep. So we'll come by 2-3 o'clock in the morning and hop on that little siren or PA and say hi to you and keep on going. Just let you know we're out there watching you, protecting you guys while you sleep. It's all good. That's what we do.
Okay. Says the ones that sit in their patrol car looking at TikTok for 2 hours at a time. Hey, there was 4 cars.
We're running radar, man.
There's 4 cars that went 20 miles per hour over the speed that just passed you. I don't care. My TikTok crush is on right now. Whatever.
It's got to be 25 and over. See, so there's that gap right there. So we're good, right?
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. I see how it is. Well, the reason why I ask about that relationship, we've seen those stories sometimes where there was I don't know the full story, and obviously I'm going to backfire, but there have been stories where like a sheriff's officer was kind of a dick to a firefighter for having a truck in a position that he wanted it moved. And we're like, no, we're not going to move it right now. The scene is not secure yet. This truck is protecting us. And then he gets pissed off because his authority was challenged. And then the firefighter's arrested by this cop for not obeying orders. And of course, the cop was actually the one that was reprimanded, just saying. But there have been times where the fire officer was in the wrong too. So we've seen those sometimes, but I don't think that's the norm. Again, I don't think that's the norm. I think in general, we work very well together. We like to bust each other's balls and everything else, and especially like on hazmat scenes, you guys, for some reason, when an overturned 18-wheeler with this placard that says methyl ethyl gonna kill you, you guys like to just walk up there and see what's going on. I don't know why. I don't know if you guys are just
we're curious.
Blind. I don't know what the hell you're doing, but we've literally had to yell at cops. What the fuck are you doing? Get the fuck out of there. Like, we're yelling at you, pissed off at you. 1, because you're doing something stupid, but 2, because we care. We don't want you to get hurt.
Sure.
But like, guys, cops, look, we know you want to be firefighters. We know you guys want to get in there and rescue, but sometimes when it comes to certain calls, y'all stand back. Let the heroes do their job. Just saying.
Yeah,
Just saying.
and I think in our
make
state
sure
of mind,
go make sure the traffic go do
yeah,
that.
I think in our, just on that point, I think in our state of mind, because we don't know what that is, right? We don't know what this white cloud of smoke is. Oh yeah, we're gonna run in there and try to save the day before you guys show up. But I mean, yeah, we got our little code books that we can flip through and see what this little placard means or whatever like that. But you think we're going to take the time to go through that code book and we're just going to run up and check it out, right? Until you guys show up on scene and yell at us, which is kind of embarrassing sometimes. We're like, oh crap, okay, But yeah, I mean, yeah, you guys are the ones who know all about that stuff, and luckily I've never had to run up in something like that, but I've seen videos, and I know exactly the video you're talking about. Again, I can play Monday Night Quarterback, you know what I mean? I can play Monday Night Quarterback all day long, but I don't know this. I mean, for all we know, or for all I know, he probably just got done scraping somebody off the roadway an hour ago, and he's still mentally upset about it, and then this fire truck blocks all this, and so he's not probably processing, oh yeah, he's right, this big red truck is protecting this entire scene,
Right.
so that's good. And I think in his mind, he just, and I watched the video, I'm like, really, dude, really? I mean, they're really protecting the whole scene, but I don't know what the guy was going through before that. He probably just had a bad day. Who knows?
It could be, and you're right. And again,
Yeah.
we're Monday Night Quarterback, and we don't know the whole situation. We just saw the clip on YouTube and everything else, and that's the thing that we're just speculating on what we've seen. We don't know the whole story. I do know in the end the cop was reprimanded for doing that because he shouldn't have done that, but we don't know what was going on. If he was having a bad day, or like you said, just got done with a pretty rough call, he just might have not been in the right state of mind to understand what was going on. But the whole idea is that we do work very well together, fire and PD. We work very well together. We all have our own jobs on certain incidents. Like if it's a MCI, a mass casualty incident, cops are trained under NIMS, just like firefighters. That is the National Incident Management System, where you have an incident command, and then it falls. And when we work together, everybody follows that one command platform, the one command guideline, the outline, and it works very well, especially when it's interoperable, between different types of departments. Fire is going to worry about this, police going to worry about this, EMS is going to worry about, everybody has their job, everybody knows who to go to. This operations sections chief is going to be with this operations sections chief with PD, and it flows, and we work really well together. And I don't think people understand a whole lot that we do work a lot together, a lot on a lot. I mean, car wrecks, guaranteed going to be working with a cop. Overdoses, psychiatric patients. Lately, it's new drug use like Kush, right? If we're first on scene, even though we have made patient contact, we still need you there because there's probably paraphernalia or something illegal, or stuff like that. And a lot of the times, and I will admit it, we will tell a patient, hey, have you done anything? Do you have anything on you? We're not the cops. We can't arrest you. We just need to know if you've taken anything. And they're like, oh yeah, I did this. And I'm like, okay, do you have anything on you right now? Yeah, it's right here in my pocket. And I'll be like, all right, you know what? Just keep it there. Don't pull it out. Hey, Chris, you might want to check this guy out real quick. And then of course they're getting pissed off at us. But the whole idea, one, we're going to take care of him. Two, we got to make sure that we're safe too. Sure. And we're still going to take him to the hospital. But now you got to do part of a job that's separate. It's the same incident, but now you have to do something else. Right. But so we all work very well. Yeah, the legal aspect of it. And we work well together. We like busting each other's balls. I think what we need to do is kind of make that connection a little bit stronger. I think in general, maybe having more get-togethers that are both for all civil service, EMS, fire, PD. I mean, PD always has their own little thing. Fire always has their own little thing. I think if there was something that kind of brought us all together, I think that would be really cool to do, because you don't see a whole lot of that. Now you do see all the charities, right? You see the guns and hoses, you see the battles all the time. Like, I'll be doing a battle of the badges. I'll be fighting against a PD officer next year in a boxing match. And you always see those type of things, but it's always showing us battling each other.
Right.
You know, there's always a competition, and it's a
Right,
fun
right.
competition. It's a loving competition. It's all good. However, I think there needs to be something where that shows us as a unity as well. I don't want the idea that we're constantly battling each other only to be that idea
Yeah.
that's being shown. And I think that is being shown more often than not. But I don't know. I mean, what do you think? You think maybe we need to...
I mean, I don't think it's fair that you guys get a whole week for Fire Week, you know, I mean, because when y'all come to my city, I mean, you guys take over the city and it's just not fair. We don't have a whole week for law enforcement, you know what I mean? Like, where you guys get to bring all your big red trucks and stuff and turn on all your lights and show people your nice equipment or whatever. We don't have that.
Oh,
I
are
don't
you
think
talking
that's
about
fair.
FDIC?
Yeah, FDIC, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have nothing big like that. I mean, we have like shows to show off like new cars and new equipment, but we just don't get to go to cities and, you know, have stuff like that. So I don't think
Well,
it's
do you
fair.
guys... So in Texas, there's a place called College Station, and it's the largest fire training facility in the nation. Do you guys have anything like that for PD? Is there anything like
No,
that you know of that's for PD? It's like the largest training facility for police officers or anything like that?
not that I know of. No. I mean,
Wow.
like our academy has, you know, a huge training facility for police and fire.
Mhm.
But yeah, we don't have anything like that.
Yeah, so in Texas, it's uh, in College Station, just south of Austin. It's 1 week where, like, literally you'll have thousands and thousands of firefighters go there for training and training only. They have what they call Disaster City, which is a whole bunch of structural collapse.
Oh, wow.
They have airplane, they have industrial, they have shipboard firefighting, they have structural, they have tank, they have high angle rescue, confined space rescue, rope rescue, swift water. I mean, everything. They have it all. I know fire. I'm pretty sure fire does have more. They cover more realms of rescue and technical rescue. I do know some PD does have divers. We have divers as well.
Hmm.
I do know some PD have marine units, and some PD SWAT in general does like the high angle stuff and everything else like that. You don't have to tell me the department you work for, but are you familiar with any of those? Do you have any certification in any of those? Or are you just basically, you're just a sheriff and that's it?
Yeah, I don't have any certification as far as SWAT or dive or anything like that. But the big city, they have a diving unit, they have a SWAT unit, ERT, things like that. Yeah.
All
And as
right.
far as training, you know, we have monthly training that we attend, you know, but we don't have like a huge facility where we go for a whole week, and which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, every month we go to some kind of training, whether it's, you know, firearms or defensive tactics or traffic stops, you know, just stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least you're keeping up with the training, right?
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's...
we're mandatory. We have so many hours a year that we
Yeah, to
have for
keep your
training.
certification and
Hmm.
to make sure that your city holds your license. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or your department holds your license. Yeah, that
right.
makes sense. It's the same with fire. We have to complete a certain number of training hours for the department to hold our certification and everything else. So it's very similar and all that. Uh, I'm going to start wrapping it up a little bit. I know I've kept you a little bit longer than I thought due to the technical difficulties, and I apologize for that. But usually, when I start wrapping it up, I ask about 3 questions of all my guests. The first one's a little bit twofold, and this can either spark another 15, 20-minute conversation, or it can be a 1 or 2 word answer. Cool. That's it. You know, whatever. There's no right or wrong answer, brother. No right or wrong answer. My first question is very simple. It's not very simple. It's a 2-part question. Officer Krispy from TikTok has his own podcast. Okay. But he's interviewing Officer Krispy. What's the one question you would have asked yourself, or piece of information that you would like to share that I didn't ask you or that we didn't cover?
That's a good one because we talked about a lot. I think maybe I would. I mean, if it was me, um, I would probably want to dig more into the mental health aspect of it. I guess just kind of like on a day-to-day life. Like what's a day in the life of Officer Chris? What do you do on your off day? What do you do to relieve stress if you have all the stress compiled against you with life and work, something like that.
All right, so let's dive into that. What do you use as your relief, as your get back down to earth um, mechanism, your therapy? What's your therapy that you have found works for you? Is it hunting, fishing, knitting? I know you're a cop. You sit in your car a lot. You can have a ball of
Hmm.
yarn. You probably knit all day.
Yeah.
So what do you do? What's your therapy for you, man? What
Yeah,
how do you de-stress from the job?
so for me, depending on what I have going on, I like to get with some friends, go shooting, go to the
Okay.
shooting range, and we'll have like little competitions to see who's better, and then just being with friends and just because they know you, they know your background, other cops, right? So we can sit and tell stories, and we can literally have a really cool conversation. And here, in the last year and a half, it's been TikTok, believe it or not. On stressful days, I can I can literally, I'm sure you have too. I can sit on TikTok for hours, and I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, it's my only day off, and I just sat here and watched TikTok all day. But I was content. I was happy. I was laughing. I was not stressful at all, and it was great. And then I made some videos, try to be funny, and it just takes everything away. It really does.
It's crazy that this social media platform has brought in so much relief to people
Oh
and
yeah.
connections that we never would have had 10 years ago. Who
No.
knows if 10 years ago our paths would have ever met? We have no idea. The likelihood is probably way less than had this platform, this social media platform had never come about.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy how many connections. And you're right, it does. Sometimes I'll be on TikTok and I'll scroll through, or I'll see somebody that needs some help, or I go live. I love to go live and be goofy. Like that's my thing.
Hmm.
I like to go live.
Yeah.
I like to be goofy. I like to dance. I'll do crazy dumb stuff, smile, and or we'll sit down, like we'll have this serious conversation for like 5 or 10 minutes, and the next thing you know, I'm standing up and dancing and being goofy, and it goes back and forth, and just oh my god, it's such a stress reliever for me, and the
Hmm.
fact that it helps other people makes it even better. And you're
Yeah.
doing the same thing. You're doing the same thing. I see it all the time. When you're live, you're sitting there, you're talking, you're having a good time. Sometimes somebody will come up, hey, I'm having a bad day, and then you'll start talking to them through the
Yeah.
live, and you're just like, hey, this is blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden it'll change back to being funny, back to let's just hang out, and that person's
Yeah.
good now. And it's that I can't even explain how crazy of an idea this is. I never thought in a million years TikTok, of all freaking things, would
Oh
be
yeah.
something that would help me. Or let me rephrase that. It would be something that I would consider has helped me save me,
Oh
if
yeah.
that makes sense. It's so
Yeah.
weird.
It
So you
is.
like going shooting, like hanging out with your boys, TikTok. Do you find yourself that stressed that you have to do that often, or is it more of you got more of a handle on it? Do you go to therapy? Do you see a counselor? Are you on any meds? I know these are all very personal questions. The only reason why I ask is because I'll tell you, yes, I'm in therapy. Yes, I go to a couples counselor. Yes, I see a psychiatrist and I do take meds. And yes, I do have to practice cognitive behavioral therapies because I have to
Hmm.
rewire my brain. My brain is not functioning correctly. I get depressed. I am depressed. I battle with anxiety. I know I might not seem like it all the time, but I'm not depressed all the time. It
Right.
comes up at the most inopportune moments. So, do you battle with any of those things?
Not a lot, but I know, years ago I learned to open up, and I started talking to a pastor, and just getting advice from him on relationships and just how to cope with stress, and how to how to separate work and home life, and that's helped me tremendously. And I find it now. I find it for me is easier to cope with stress and how to learn how to just deal with it, and then if something is bothering me or whatever, I'll reach out to some friends, and they'll know. They'll say, hey, let's go shooting, or hey, let's get together and have a few drinks and play some cards, and it cures it. I mean, because it gets my mind completely off of it, and then we can actually have a serious conversation because they know me, I know them, and they know they can confide in me, and vice versa. So that helps me out a lot.
It's cool that you've learned that about yourself. How long did it take you to learn that about yourself? Or what was it that made you realize that that's what it was that you were going to need? Or why did you take that step to go talk to the pastor? Was it something big that happened? You're just like, hey, maybe I need to go talk to somebody, and he was the first person that came up? Or was it recommended?
Well, yeah. So I learned that going in a relationship, when you finally have that person that tells you who you really are,
Uh-huh.
what kind of an asshole you are, or what kind of a dick you are, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, I'm really that way. I really said that to you. I really treated you that way. Oh my gosh, because that's not me. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not me. So I took it upon myself to just reach out to a pastor, and a friend of mine, hooked me up with his pastor, and I had a really good sit down talk with him, and he actually talked to me and showed me how to look at me through my eyes, and then I learned how to cope with things. I learned how to talk to people and my relationships, and so yeah, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of work, but I'm able to now learn how to be that person versus the person I was before.
Have you found that it helps you sharing that story and everything else when you're on TikTok, when you tell them that you had a rough day or something stressful happened? For me, it helps me sharing it, because then it makes it less difficult to talk about later. And then somebody else would be like, oh, wow, yeah, that sounds very similar to what I went through. Thank you for sharing. Oh, you're saying exactly how I feel. I just didn't know how to put it into words. And then you're like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, so I'm not crazy. Did you find that to be helpful, sharing that kind of stuff with strangers?
Yeah, I mean it's difficult, because like for the one video I did, it took me hours to think about how I wanted to get my story out there, right,
Mm-hmm.
without exposing people, right? And so once I made it, yeah, it was embarrassing. Yeah, I thought, oh, here we go. But the amazing outpour of people that I had support, just people I didn't even know on TikTok, was crazy. I mean, the emails, the messages that I got on a daily basis was like, wow. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. So yeah, I mean, putting that stuff out on TikTok, it's really a stress reliever. It's good to know that there's people out there that has your back, right? And they're behind you 100%. Because like you said, we're human. So
We're
us putting that stuff
normal.
out there, yeah,
We're
yeah,
normal people doing an abnormal job.
yeah.
We
We
see more
exactly,
shit than the average person does, but that's because we chose to do it.
yeah.
So, well, I appreciate you sharing that with me, man. I know being able to say that you even need that therapy or need that stress relief, you're admitting to people that you do get affected, and that sometimes is a little bit difficult to do. So the fact that you did that, the fact that you did put out that video, I don't think you should be embarrassed by it at all. I don't think you should be stressed out by it at all. Just like we talked about earlier, all you did was just show his strength, and you fought the stigma is what you did.
Yeah,
And by doing that, you're allowing other people to find the strength within themselves to hopefully do the same later on. So I
absolutely.
wouldn't be ashamed. I wouldn't be embarrassed by it at all, man. Seriously, wholeheartedly, brother to brother, I'm proud of the fact that you did that, because not a lot of us, especially men in civil service, are capable of doing that right now for whatever reason. And it
Very true.
takes a lot of balls to be able to put yourself out there and then take the ridicule, So
Yeah,
I think you did a good job, brother.
appreciate it.
My second to last question to you is, this one's the simple one. Do you have any questions for me? Simple as that. I'll answer it as honestly and openly as I can. If I can't answer it, I'll politely tell you to go eat a donut, and you can ask me another one.
You know, I don't really have any questions. I think because we talk enough, so I know a little bit about you, but you know, if I had anything or any questions, I'd probably just call you personally and talk to you that way.
Okay. Well, I'm an open book. I don't care what, if you had something that wanted to ask me and you thought it'd be too personal or whatever, I don't care about sharing it. I really don't.
And I don't eat donuts. You know that? Isn't that weird?
You could have fooled me.
Yeah, I know, right? I'll if they're there, I may have like a half of one, but
Oh, so
I
you
don't
still
eat donuts.
you still eat them though?
You know where that comes from?
No,
Tops and
educate me.
donuts. So this is what I heard. So I heard like way back in the day. We're talking very early, I don't know, 1900s, I guess.
Mhm.
So when the officers, had to write a report or whatever, the only place that was open 24 hours was a coffee and donut shop. They would all go there to write their reports or whatever, and they would eat coffee or drink coffee and eat donuts. And I think that's what I heard, where the whole cops associated with the donuts and coffee thing came about.
Yeah, it makes sense. Tradition. Yeah. I mean, traditions come from the most. No, we didn't mean to do that. It was just what was available. Okay,
Right.
well, too bad. Donut is now forever for you. But yeah, that's the same thing. It's the same thing with fire and everything else. We get those little things all the time. Oh, slide down the pole. Not every station has a fire pole. Not every station has a fire pole. No, we don't all slide down poles. No, we don't all look like the calendars. No. It doesn't work that way.
No, it does not.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you not having a question for me, I guess. My last question for you is, this one's a little bit more difficult in that most of my guests haven't, they're trying to find the words for it. We're on What Makes Us Fire podcast, and What Makes Us Fire can be thought of, I like to think of it more of what makes us civil service. What makes us people that chose to make a sacrifice of ourselves for others? Okay. So what makes us fire can be, hey, everybody that's listening, you're going to be learning about the people that make us civil service, that makes us fire. But really with my guest, it's more of a question. What do you think it is that makes us civil service, that makes us fire? Think of, when I say fire, it's because I'm a firefighter, obviously. Mm-hmm. But the question's more like, what do you think of it is that makes us civil service?
I think, like with me, for example, growing up, I that's what I knew. I had family in it, and I grew up watching them care for other people. I grew up watching them save lives. So for me, I grew up thinking that way. I grew up believing that way, and so even though I didn't want to be a cop or anything, when I got into it, that's what made me who I am. I learned, over all these years to, care for people and to help people out. And that's what I enjoy doing. I think that's what does it for a lot of us. I think it comes from our childhood, seeing other people care for somebody else, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then you develop that over the years. And I think that's what instills in us today, to this day.
And that's actually a really good answer. It's basically what is taught to you, correct? Like what you see and what you learn is kind of what made you really feel and know that this is going to be something that you're good with doing, because you've seen it all your life. Like it's almost something that you innately know how to do now because you've seen it, you know what it is. I guess more of the questions about where did that passion from even the ones before you come from. The reason why I say that is because we're all different. We're all completely different. We all have different backgrounds, different belief systems, different sexual preferences, different love interests, different hobbies. We in my station alone, we have an atheist, we have a Christian, we have a Catholic, and we have different ethnicities. I'm Hispanic. There's some white, there's some black, there's some Asians. I mean, like we're all different. We all come from different backgrounds, different moralistic backgrounds, right? Different ideas about life, different political views. And yet all of us, every single one of us decided to do the job, to be there for each other no matter what, and then to be there for the public no matter what. We even have to challenge our own belief systems to help people that don't fall in line with what we believe outside the job. But yet we're not, that doesn't stop us or hinder us or negate any care. We still do it just like we would for our own family member.
Mm-hmm.
Where did we learn that? Where did we get that from? Where did that feeling that it doesn't matter that you don't fall in line with my political views, or it doesn't matter that you don't fall in line with my religious beliefs, it doesn't matter that you don't fall in line with my sexual preferences or my ethnicity, all of that shit does not matter. I'm still going to sacrifice myself for you. I'm still going to go into that burning building, risk my life for you, or into that situation, into that shooting in the mall, into whatever. I'm still going to protect you. I'm going to put myself in front of you, in front of these bullets that are flying towards us. I'm going to push forward and help you get back. Where did that come from with all of us being so different?
That's a really good question. And it's hard to answer. I think it all starts with, growing up and seeing that, but I think with, people with different beliefs and different backgrounds, I think once those individuals make a decision to get in that line of work, and then they see who you really are. Yeah, you may like this one person for politics, and they may like the other, and you guys have these real big beliefs. But at the end of the day, you're his brother or sister, right? And that's what you do. You're there for each other. It doesn't matter, what you believe. Like we have a guy that's on my shift. He's a Democrat. And we give each other shit all day long, and sometimes on purpose. I'll start something with him, just on purpose, because I want to see him get all mad. At the end of the day, even though he gets really mad at me, at the end of the day, within minutes later, we're hugging each other, we're joking, we're having a great time, and then we continue on with our day. So it's hard. I think for me, it's going to be hard to answer that question, but I think it starts with growing up. We only know what we were taught. We only know what what we see. So like if you were in a household where mom and dad were divorced early, right? Or you saw how mom or dad treated each other, well, you're going to grow up maybe doing the same thing. So you have to teach yourself that's not right. It's going to be hard, but growing up to becoming an adult, you have to learn that you can't do what mom or dad did. And sometimes it's hard for people. You have to educate yourself.
It's that whole saying, just be better. Just be better. Be better than what was. And hopefully you can leave this planet, this earth, a better place for someone else. Just be better. Be better. That's all you got to do.
Do it. Yeah. Do what's right.
Exactly. I had a guest on earlier. He said, if the general public, if the world can replicate what's in the fire service and in the police service, like the civil service, and how we treat each other as brothers and sisters, even as different as we all are, the world would be such a better place.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're able and we know how to interact with each other, even with all the differences that we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we love and respect each other. And that's all we got to do.
Yeah,
that's all you got to do. Just love and respect each other. You do not have to hate anybody for having a different idea than you. It's just a different idea.
Yeah.
You're going to wake up.
Everybody has their own opinions.
You're going to wake up tomorrow just like you have been. I promise.
Yep.
Don't let this person's idea ruin your day. It's just an idea. That's all.
And TikTok will still be there when you wake up.
Yes, TikTok will still be there when you wake up if they haven't banned you.
That's
and we're gonna end it on that. All right, brother. Aleen, man, thank you so much for coming on to the show. What Makes Us Fire? Thank you for being patient with me and my internet connection. Of course, it worked for the last part all the way through. No connection issues whatsoever. Why not? But I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I appreciate you taking the time I appreciate you responding on those lives. And finally, we made it happen. Thank you so much. I have nothing but respect for what you do, brother. We see it all the time on TikTok, IGY6. It's very true. And being a brother in red to a brother in blue, I got your back. I support you, and I support what you're doing. If you were a dick cop, I wouldn't support you, but you're a good human being, and I support good human beings, and you're a cop, and that's even better. We need more good human beings as civil servants, and I think most of us are. And you're one of those guys that can show that, and you do show that, and I salute you for that, man.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the invite.
For that.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, man. And I'm glad that I was able to beat Officer Kingery, be the first active, law enforcement on your show.
Yeah,
so
you are the first active. Yeah, hey, Kingery, you hear that? You hear that, Kingery? Yeah. You hear that, Kingery?
And see, and I knew I was going to be the first one anyway, because when you reach that 1 million follower status, you're like a TikTok celebrity now. He's up in there, So
yeah.
So for
I still don't think he's been verified though. I don't think he's been verified. He's at 1.5 million followers, and TikTok doesn't want to verify him. Like, what the fuck, TikTok? Come on, get your shit together.
Yeah, I don't even know, like, what's it mean to even get verified? Like, how? Because I've literally seen people on TikTok. I'm sure you have too. They have like 30,000 followers and they're verified.
Yep.
Like, what? How did that happen? Like,
yeah.
Seriously.
Seriously. I mean, they're creators, and so they get paid for whatever content they put out. If they bring new TikTok users, they get paid for it, and that's cool. And how cool is it that a free platform is offering you basically a job if you do well enough?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, and remember, everybody, you can bitch about being banned all you want. You're on a free platform. It's not yours. You don't pay for it. If they want to ban whatever content you put out there, yes, it sucks. Yes, they're censoring you. However, it's their fucking platform. And I'm sucky as it is, and as crappy as it is, and as much as you bitch about it, you really don't have a leg to stand on.
No.
Just remember.
Not with TikTok.
Not with TikTok. Anyway, brother, again, thank you so much for jumping in. Thank you for coming on the show. You have anything else?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you, man.
Awesome. What Makes Us Fire Family? This was Aleen, better known as Officer_Krispy on TikTok. Go give him a follow on TikTok. Are you on any other social media platforms?
I am not really.
Okay,
well,
so
I got Instagram. I got Instagram.
Okay, is it under the same? It is under the same Officer_Krispy. Okay, so go follow him on TikTok. He doesn't get on Instagram very often. Go follow him on TikTok. You guys check out his videos. This guy's an uplifting guy. He goes live a lot. He speaks very good information. He just loves seeing people happy and putting good vibes out there. He's an amazing cop. He's an amazing, better human being. So go follow him. Give him some love. Show him some love. And tell him hi from the What Makes Us Fire family. He's already part of the family. He knows it. So much love to y'all. Get out there, have fun, stay safe. Remember to show some love and peace out there in the world. We never know what somebody might be going through. You never know if you might be the one to make the difference. And I'm sure Officer Krispy here will let you guys know. Being the one that makes the difference feels pretty fucking good.
Yep.
All right. Peace.
Peace out, man. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, What Makes Us Fire Family? That was Officer Krispy. Thank you for jumping in and learning about him and hearing his story and what it's like for him to be a cop and what it was like for him becoming a cop and what it's like for him being a cop now and the whole ideas he has about life, his life, and the shit he has to go through on a day-to-day basis. We talked a lot about the mainstream media and how big of a change that it has made when it comes to public perception on cops. Let's be better, y'all. Let's give it time. Let's not believe the first thing we hear. Let's dig in a little deeper. Let's not allow the perception or the idea of what happened become the truth. Let's wait. Let's be patient. Yes, I know that the stories can seem pretty radical and they look horrible, but we're only getting a clip, y'all. Let's be patient. I want to thank Officer Krispy. I want to thank Aleen for taking the time to coming on to What Makes Us Fire and letting us know about his life and his outlook, and basically just opening up and being who he was. It takes a lot for somebody to be vulnerable, and on this show I get a lot of guests that open up and show that quote unquote vulnerability for you, in hopes that you'll learn something, in hopes that maybe we'll change your mind on the idea of what you had about the profession or the person. In saying all that, What Makes Us Fire Family, please, please, please continue to like and share. Follow us on all your social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and Snapchat with the tag @WhatMakesUsFire. You can also follow What Makes Us Fire on the YouTube channel, What Makes Us Fire, all one word, space, podcast. Subscribe, leave reviews. All those help the show. Also, if you need to reach out or you have a story to share, you can always email me at whatmakesusfire@yahoo.com. I try to get to everybody, and I will. Just be a little bit patient, please. For anybody needing help right now, please reach out. And if we can't get to you soon enough, call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. It's 100% confidential. You can be 100% anonymous if you choose to be, but call them. The number is 1-800-273-8255. You guys, start the conversation. Start the conversation. Start walking down that road that's going to get you better. If calling isn't for you, you can also visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org, where you will find a multitude of avenues and resources for you to start your journey on mental health clarity and being better. I love you all. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for continuing to share. You guys have fun. Stay safe out there. Remember, let's show some love and peace out in the world. We never know who might need it. You never know if you might be the one to make the difference. And it feels really damn good to be that difference. Much love, y'all. Peace.